Is this the most complete large van proposition the market can offer? Renault thinks so. Some rivals claim greater sophistication, but this Master delivers much of what they offer at a significantly lower price. As usual with this model, there's a vast range of capacity options to choose from, and this smarter looking Master has really upped its game in terms of efficiency, safety, infotainment and technology. If you're a business browsing in this segment, it's a real contender.
Everything about Renault's third generation Master is big, including the sales it stacks up in Europe. In our market, it doesn't tend to be the first large van that business buyers consider. Renault thinks it should be, and substantially revised this LCV in 2019 to create the model we're going to look at here. The Master has been around in one guise or another since 1980, with that first generation model lasting for 17 years. Its 1997 replacement stuck around for a mere 13 years until the third generation Master appeared in 2010, continuing to share its design and all its engineering with two key segment competitors, Vauxhall's Movano and the Nissan NV400. All three of these LCVs were substantially upgraded in 2019. More important still are the changes made inside. The cab's been significantly redesigned, and there are key differences beneath the bonnet, where the twin-turbo 2.3-litre diesel engine gets more power and greater efficiency. Plus, this model can be ordered in full electric ZE form too. As before, packing up a Master is no small task, given loading capacities of anywhere between 8 and 18 cubic metres in standard van models. And that torquey 2.3-litre DCI engine can haul big weights too, up to 4.5 tonnes if you're really piling on the pounds, all of which is just as well as smarter, cleaner, more comfortable and more practical though it may be. This Master has its work cut out in stealing market share from an army of accomplished rivals, something it will need to do if the French brand's European LCV market share of nearly 15% is to be better reflected on these shores. Still, the French brand is confident that it can make real headway in the LCV segment with this model, helped by a vast range of different body styles, load-carrying options and conversions that allow this Renault, in theory at least, to appeal to almost any kind of business. Might it suit yours? Let's find out. The Master has long primarily campaigned with the 2.3-litre diesel, and that hasn't changed. Rear-driven models get the same DCI 130 and Energy DCI 145 units that were used before, the numbers designating the PS output. The version of this engine that front-driven Masters now feature, though, is quite a lot different. All versions of it use twin turbos, and all feature a new cylinder head, a new cylinder block, an improved variable turbo with an integrated exhaust manifold, and, as standard, the brand's stop-start system. As a result, all the units on offer are usefully more efficient. We'll get to that in our practicality and costs section, even though all are also more powerful. There are three different power outputs rated at 135, 150 and 180 PS. There's now no lower powered single turbo unit. The top 180 PS variant is available with the option of the brand's semi-auto manual automated quick shift 6-speed clutchless transmission. There's also a full electric battery powered ZE version of this model, but its high price makes it a vanishingly rare choice amongst operators. We'll tell you more about it later in this section. For this test, we've opted for the volume 150 PS DCI diesel engine with a manual gearbox and front-wheel drive, the kind of combination most likely buyers will want. Provided you don't press the fascia eco button, which restricts pulling power quite a lot, you'll find that this DCI energy unit has a gutsy feel. Renault says that between 20 to 40 Newton meters of pulling power has been added across the powertrain lineup, and this 150 PS model certainly pulls strongly, developing all of its 385 Newton meters of torque from just 1,750 RPM. So you won't find yourself needing to row this van along with the gear lever. If you regularly engage lugging heavier loads, though, you'll prefer one of the rear-wheel drive models, particularly if you tow. Some of the bigger rear-driven Masters have a braked towing weight of 3 tonnes. You can extend this to 3.5 tonnes with the twin rear wheel option. Let's talk traction. Now, Renault approves a pricey 4x4 conversion carried out by German specialist company Oberania, which also offers significant extra ride height, enabling an all-wheel driven Master to access really hard-to-reach locations. But at least some of the extra grip you'd get from that kind of drivetrain can be delivered by a correctly specified rear-driven model equipped with the optional limited slip differential. With this fitted, if one wheel starts to spin on a slippery surface, torque is diverted to a wheel with more grip. All Masters get at least some tractional assistance, courtesy of a clever grip extend feature built into the ESC stability control system. Grip Extend adjusts the ESC's intervention to assist starting and moving off at low speed on low grip surfaces like mud, snow or sand. The transfer of torque between the driven wheels can be as high as 25%. For most operators, though, the most hazardous driving conditions they'll come across will be of the urban traffic jam sort, which seems to have been the kind of environment this Renault van has been primarily designed for. The light steering, which is welcome when you're trying to thread this large vehicle through tight city streets, certainly gives you that feeling right from the off, as does the relatively tight turning circle, 13.6 metres curb to curb or 14.1 metres wall to wall on a typical front or rear driven L2 variant, which isn't bad for such an enormous LCV. With either drive format, parking and low-speed street manoeuvring are easier than you might expect they would be with a vehicle this size. That's thanks not only to the large door mirrors, but also to the further wide-angle mirror on the inside of the passenger sun visor that allows the driver to see if anything or anyone, a cyclist for instance, is in the vehicle's near side blind spot. As an owner, you can build further on that thanks to the fact that for the first time in this revised form, the Master can also be ordered with an optional rear view camera. Well, 2 cameras in fact. One can appear on this central infotainment screen. The other, Renault calls it a rear camera assist option, is permanently on, works like a rear view mirror and sits where a rear view mirror would normally be. The driving position gives quite a car-like feel, and aided by the anti-roll bar fitted into the front suspension, body roll is decently controlled on twisty country routes for a high-sided van of this type. Renault hasn't made any transmission or suspension changes here, so as before, the gear shift isn't the smoothest in the segment, and the ride can become a bit unsettled over country routes and some poorer street-side surfaces, though Renault has done its best to improve things by installing long polyurethane bump stops. Front-driven models get single-leaf springs, while the rear-driven variants use dual-leaf springs, or where twin rear wheels are fitted, triple-leaf springs. Things do smooth out a bit on the highway, particularly if you've got a bit of weight in the back. If the urban ride quality is an issue for you, say if you're transporting delicate items, then you might be interested in the available air suspension option. In our original test of this van, we referenced the fact that refinement at cruising speeds wasn't a strong point of this model, and it still isn't. The standard full-height bulkhead helps, but overall more modern rival designs set a much higher standard here. The engine's not that noisy. A dual-mass flywheel and a crankshaft with 8 counterweights help to cut vibration, but wind noise and tyre roar are both quite evident. Lane departure warning and blind spot warning can now be optionally added in, as can an autonomous braking system that scans the road ahead for potential accident hazards. Let's finish with a few more words on the 100% electric, zero emissions or ZE version we mentioned earlier. One of the very few full electric large LCV models available in the segment. This derivative, of course, doesn't suffer from any refinement issues at all. On the contrary, it has to include a ZE voice feature that emits a distinctive sound at slow urban speeds as the vehicle moves to alert unwary or disabled pedestrians of its approach. The Master ZE uses a 33 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery that, when fully charged, has a WLTP-rated driving range restricted to just 75 miles or only 50 miles in winter. And even to get that, you'll have to make frequent use of the available Eco mode, which restricts pulling power quite a lot, and learn to make good use of the regenerative braking system, which harvests energy to boost battery charge. If we were to tell you that this was a completely new 4th generation version of this Master, you'd probably believe us. The visual changes made to the front end as part of this updated Mark III model's facelift certainly suggest that. Renault has needed here to bring the visual identity of this model more into line with smaller vans in its LCV lineup. The key change lies with this freshly designed handlebar-shaped front grille, which gains these chrome headlights if you splash out on the plusher Business Plus trim package we have here. It's flanked by restyled headlights featuring the C-shaped LED light design that's now a Renault commercial vehicle signature. The brand hopes that the contrast between the vertical lines of the grille and the horizontal emphasis of the more upright bonnet and reprofiled front wings will give this revised model a stronger and more powerful look. But practicality hasn't been forgotten, and to that end, these steps in each corner of the bumper are retained so that when necessary, it's easier to step up and clean the windscreen. In profile, you realise just what a vast contender this Master can be, with 4 body lengths delivering carriage capacity that can be anywhere between 8 and 17 cubic metres. Here we've got a typical L3 H2 model. Whichever Master variant you select, the wheels are 16 inches in size, but you have to pay extra for their full diameter plastic covers, which seems a bit mean. All models get this wide lower side rubbing strip and this downward angled cab window that provides a better view of this big wide angle door mirror. Not much has changed at the rear, which is a little disappointing since we'd like to have seen this high-level stoplight actually positioned at a high level rather than just above the door handle. Other rivals cite the tail lamps a little higher too, better to keep them out of harm's way. There's something new though, this optional surround rear vision overhead camera, which projects images through to a screen at the top of the windscreen, which works like a rear view mirror. There continue to be 3 roof height choices, with most likely to want the normal H2 roof height we've got here, which can give you a load box height of up to 1,894mm in a front-driven variant, 8mm more than an equivalent Ford Transit. If that's not sufficient, the alternative and tallest H3 roof height can increase that to as much as 2,144mm in a front-driven model, which is 19mm more than an equivalent Ford Transit. Right, time to take a look inside the cab. It's quite a climb up to the driver's seat. Once inside, you get the usual high and pleasingly commanding driving position that most large LCVs deliver. This one doesn't feel quite as sophisticated as more modern designs from Mercedes, Volkswagen and Ford in this segment. And in some areas, the cabin design is starting to feel its age. The fact that there's no steering wheel reach adjustment, for instance. It's certainly a lot smarter than before, though, in this updated form. more attention's been paid to detail stuff. The single dashboard colour you now get helps, plus the gear knob and the climate control dials have been smartened up. The seats gain better quality Kaleido fabric upholstery, and buyers get the option of a wireless charging mat. Plus, the steering wheel has been redesigned, as has the instrument binnacle you view through it with its smarter 3.5-inch TFT display, which can show temperature, a digital speedo, average speed, distance travelled, driving range, current and average fuel consumption, and an odometer. A more modern standard of infotainment is also now on offer, courtesy of this optional 7-inch Media Nav Evolution centre dash touchscreen. Pricier models in this segment offer monitors with superior graphical clarity, but this R-Link display certainly gives you all the key features you'd want, including TomTom navigation, Bluetooth, a DAB tuner, and Apple CarPlay or Android Auto smartphone mirroring. This screen also supports the optional rear view camera that's available to master buyers for the first time. In fact, 2 cameras are optionally available as part of the changes made to this revised model. The one on this upper screen no longer offers sat-nav options as it did previously, but now takes a permanent feed from the rear roof camera we referenced earlier to act as a virtual rear view mirror. If you occasionally find that distracting, as we sometimes have on this test, you can twist the display away towards the passenger until you need it. Everything's fashioned from dour grey plastic that looks pretty hard-wearing, and generally the ergonomic design here is well thought out, though there are a couple of issues. The raised gear stick is positioned a fraction further away than you'd ideally want. On the plus side, though, we really like this wide-angle mirror on the inside of the passenger sun visor that helps you keep a better eye on your offside blind spot. With Business Plus trim, you get a hands-free keycard that allows you to lock or unlock the vehicle without using the key. All that's needed is to touch one of the front or rear exterior door handles locking buttons, which is particularly useful when making frequent deliveries. What else? Well, throughout this test we found the driver's seat to be very comfortable. Even the standard chair is 6-way adjustable with lumbar support and adjustable padded head restraint and an integral armrest. If you regularly undertake long journeys or deliver over bumpy surfaces, you might also want to look at the optional air-cushioned driver's seat that we've been trying here. It can be adjusted according to weight from 40 to 130 kilos and offers a choice of 2 cushion angles. It comes with pneumatic lumbar adjustment and an adjustable headrest. As usual with any mid or large-sized van, you get a choice between 2 individual front seats, as we have here, or a 2-passenger front bench, which is the kind of arrangement that often on an LCV means a rather cramped perch for the occupant relegated into the middle. Here, the centre space on offer isn't too bad, though knee room is slightly compromised by this storage area in the centre console with its indented cup holder and 12-volt socket. Ah yes, storage. We should talk about that. There's plenty of it in this cab. Renault claims that no fewer than 22 separate compartments are provided, which together offer around 55 litres of space. And that's before you add in the extra 60-litre space that you'll get under the 2 passenger seats. It's a little disappointing that many of the receptacles leave anything placed inside in full view of prying eyes, but at least all the usual cubbies are decently sized. These 2 large overhead shelves, for instance, separated by a dedicated space for the optional tachograph fitment, and these big door bins, which incorporate a small upper compartment and a lower section with a recessed moulding big enough to take a flask or a 1.5-litre bottle. It's a pity that this 7.6-litre glove box can't be locked, but it can be chilled and it's able to swallow a couple of 1.5-litre bottles. There's the useful option of an A4 clipboard that folds out of the dash for holding invoices, maps or delivery notes. A smaller lower compartment features at either end of the fascia. There's a ticket flap on the driver's sun visor, and you also get 3 shelves on top of the dashboard, which has further cup holders at either end. Two more drink holders feature in this desktop surface that's optional with base trim and folds out of the centre backrest. It swivels towards the driver, incorporates a tray and a small compartment, and is aimed at those wanting to use this vehicle as a mobile office. The various provided connectivity ports will help here. There's a USB, a 12-volt and an aux-in socket, but if you're really going to function on the move, you'll probably need to invest in the Media Nav Evolution infotainment system upgrade we mentioned earlier. This display incorporates most of the things you'd want in its radio, media, phone, map and nav functions. As part of these, you get Wi-Fi enabled connected navigation and Apple CarPlay, Android Auto smartphone mirroring, so you can replicate key phone apps onto the 7-inch centre dash display. Let's start with what you'll pay. Now, with around 160 configurations from which to choose, with 70 body options, giving you a quick summary on Master pricing is pretty difficult. Still, we'll try. From the launch of this revised model in late 2019, the smallest L1H1 panel van version of this model was priced from around £27,500, excluding the dreaded VAT. But it's more likely that you'll be paying somewhere in the £30,000 to £40,000 ex-VAT bracket for this LCV. There are two trim levels, Business, or if you're prepared to find a premium of just over £1,500 more, Business Plus, which is what we have here. Buyers choose between 4 exterior lengths from 5.05 to 6.85 metres, or L1 to L4, and 3 roof heights of 1.7 to 2.14 metres, H1, H2 and H3. Most operators will probably want a variant like the one we have here, an L3 H2 model with a mid-range engine, which would cost in the £32,000 to £34,000 bracket ex-VAT. And that's probably fairly typical in terms of the kind of list pricing you'd be looking at. For panel van customers wanting to add extra people carrying capacity to the packaging mix, there are the crew van variants, which can take up to 7 thanks to an extra rearward seat in front of the load bay. We're not taking it for granted, of course, that you'll want a panel van or a crew van version of this model. Renault also does quite a bit of business with chassis cab, platform cab, tipper, drop side, Luton low loader and Luton box van versions of this model. And platform and chassis cab versions can be converted by Renault-approved coach builders into a vast array of products, from wheelchair access minibuses and refrigerated vans to camper vans, ambulances, cherry pickers, horse boxes and Luton low loaders. Renault Tech, the brand's in-house conversion specialist, operating from the Renault Master factory in France, can advise on all your options. And there's unlikely to be a conversion they haven't come across. Most of these specialist variants will be based around rear-driven Master mechanicals, which means a need to use the older, heavy-duty, homologated version of this van's 2.3-litre DCI diesel engine. That will mean you'll be restricted to 2 outputs that apply to the older version of this power plant, 130 and 145 PS. All the front-driven panel vans and their crew van derivatives, though, come with the updated light-duty homologated powertrain lineup introduced with this revised model, which offers a choice between 135, 150 and 180 PS outputs. For an extra £900, certain versions of the 150 and 180 PS units can be ordered with the brand's semi-automatic Quick Shift 6 gearbox, which does away with a clutch pedal and will be preferred by urban users. You do, of course, have to have an auto gearbox with the full electric Master ZE variant, which comes only in base business trim, only in front-driven form and with a choice of L1, L2 or L3 body lengths, or H1 or H2 roof heights. Prices for the Master ZE start at around £48,000, excluding VAT, after the available £8,000 government plug-in grant has been subtracted from the mildly alarming initial asking figure. In other words, you're looking at a premium of around £20,000 over diesel power if you want your company to make a fully green-minded statement. Until the van industry can reduce the size of this price hike and increase the operating range of the available models, sales of full battery LCVs will continue to be tiny. OK, let's return to the combustion engine lineup and drill down into the range a little. The smallest versions of this model can only be had in front-driven form, and front-driven Masters can be had with all three roof height options and the first three body lengths. Those needing to tow or take heavier loads might be better off looking at the rear-wheel drive option, which is available with single or twin rear wheels and, as we mentioned earlier, allows the Master to be configured in a wider variety of ways, primarily as a drop side, a tipper or a box van. Panel van operators wanting drive from the rear get slightly less wheelbase and roof height choice than they would with a front-driven derivative. Rear-driven Masters are available with L2, L3 and L4 body lengths and H2 and H3 roof heights. Should you want a crew van model with that extra row of seats behind the front ones, you have to have a front-driven model with the H2 roof height, but you can choose between L2 or L3 body lengths. Here, though, our main focus is to serve those looking for straightforward Master panel vans. So how have they been pitched in comparison to direct segment rivals? Well, let's see. As expected, this Renault is much more affordably priced than this segment's two highest quality options, the Mercedes Sprinter and the Volkswagen Crafter, the latter also on sale in rebadged form as the MAN TGE. But the French brand's list pricing doesn't give this LCV much of an advantage over the other volume players in the class, the two most obvious ones being the pair of vans that share all this Renault's basic engineering, the Vauxhall Movano and the Nissan NV400. The other badge-engineered design in this segment is the one marketed as either a Peugeot Boxer, a Citroën Relay or a Fiat Ducato. If you really want to save money on a van of this kind, there's also the Maxus Deliver 9. All of these contenders take on two key standalone models, the Iveco Daily and, perhaps most significantly, the UK market leader, the 2-ton version of Ford's Transit. Now, it's likely that your Renault Pro Plus LCV dealer will be able to match or beat pricing on any of the mainstream competitors just mentioned, and the Gallic brand can offer as wide a support network as any brand bar Ford in this sector, all of which could make this Master a very creditable choice if the right deal is on the table. If that's the case, there'll be quite a few decisions to make before placing your order, so if your notebook's at the ready, let's try and talk you through a few of them. We've already talked about the 4 different body lengths and the 3 roof heights, and well, equally important is the gross vehicle weight you're going to need in your chosen Master model. Now, let's assume that you want a panel van like this. The entry-level version has a gross vehicle weight of 2,800 kilograms. The next option is 3,300 kilograms, which slots in below the 2 top gross weights, 3,500 kilograms, which is what we have here, and 4,500 kilograms, although those 4.5-ton versions are so large that you may need to pay extra for a tachograph. Bear in mind that the longest L4 wheelbase is only available with the 2 weightiest options. At this point, you should have a pretty good idea of what your ideal Master derivative is going to be. It's now just a case of finalising your vehicle's final equipment spec. Now, the base trim level, which, as we said earlier, is badged business, covers off all the usual basics. A 3-person front seat, powered windows, heated powered mirrors and a trip computer. Plus, of course, a full-height bulkhead, a near-side sliding side door and a spare wheel. Renault also includes, as standard, 2 things you have to pay extra for on an equivalent Vauxhall Movano: an alarm and an upgraded driver's seat, one with height adjustability, lumbar support and an armrest. And there's a DAB tuner, a CD or MP3 player, a USB port and Bluetooth, plus a range of safety features we'll talk you through in a few minutes. You also get, as standard, RAID or Renault Anti-Intruder Device feature, that automatically locks all doors when the vehicle's in motion, preventing any chance of an opportunist thief getting into the load area. Paying the extra for the Business Plus trim level models, identifiable by their chromed front grille trim and wheel styling covers, gets you 4 key additions: air conditioning with a pollen filter, rear parking sensors, a pivoting seat back table and a fully adjustable suspension type driver's seat, which is a boon if you're delivering over bumpy surfaces. In addition, you get wide view mirrors on the inside of the passenger sun visor that helps you keep a better eye on your offside blind spot. Plus, Business Plus trim gives you some extra detail additions: a one-touch descending function for the driver's power window, a wide-view door mirror, a 12-volt power point in the load area, interior chrome trim and a lid for the dash-top storage compartment. It's worth recording that most of the key Business Plus features are available as individual options, so you might find it's better to buy in with base spec trim and pick and choose from the extras list. On to options, and as with any van, there are plenty depending on the uses you have in mind. If you're going to be using your Master as a mobile office, we'd suggest you consider the Media Nav multimedia infotainment upgrade package, a further extra fitted to this test van. This gives you a 7-inch centre dash screen via which you can access Wi-Fi enabled Navtec TomTom navigation, 3D street level mapping and a better quality 4-speaker DAB audio system. Plus, courtesy of Renault's R-Link connectivity, there's Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, smartphone mirroring. If you can't stretch to the Media Nav multimedia package, Renault also offers a cheaper R&Go media option compatible with Android and iOS smartphones, which works via a provided app and includes a cradle for the centre of the fascia that turns your smartphone into a dashboard touchscreen. Another key option, one we have fitted here, is the 270-degree opening feature for the twin rear doors, which enables them to be folded right back into the sides of the vehicle when you're unloading. And talking of loading, it'd be wise to protect the cargo area with one of Renault's load lining options. There's full-height plywood load lining and plywood wheel arch protection. Plus, we'd also want the optional resin-coated plywood load floor covering. Both have been fitted to this test vehicle. What about driving stuff? Well, there's a lot more optional camera tech available on a Master these days. A rear view camera that appears on the infotainment screen or the pricey rear camera assist package we've been trying here, which provides a permanent always-on feed to a display positioned at the top of the windscreen that acts like a virtual rear view mirror. Once you've used it, you'll wonder how you lived without it. And more conventionally, you can, of course, order front and rear parking sensors if you want them. And these are also included in the various parking packs that Renault offers, some of which package in the sensors with features like a rear parking camera, cruise control and blind spot warning, all of which can also be ordered separately. Renault also approves a 4x4 conversion done by German specialist company Oberreiner. But that's very expensive. Think an extra £30,000. And much of the traction you'd get from that kind of drivetrain can be delivered by a correctly specified rear-driven model equipped with the optional locking differential. With this fitted, if one wheel starts to spin on a slippery surface, torque is diverted to the wheel with more grip. Additionally, you can specify grippier all-weather tyres and you can increase a rear-driven Master's towing capacity to 3.5 tonnes by specifying a two-wheel heavy-duty option, which gives you a pair of wheels on each side at the back. If you've very fragile loads to carry, you might conceivably be interested in finding another £2,400 for the air suspension option. As for the practicalities, well, there's no option for the kind of powered sliding side door that you can have on some other LCVs, but you can, of course, specify a second sliding side door on the offside. We'd want the optional LED load space lighting too, plus you can add in 2 extra anchorage points in the cargo area, each one capable of holding 500 kilograms. If you really don't want the two-person front bench seat, you can specify 2 individual front seats. An optional glazing pack adds in extra glass areas around this van, but you might well prefer to specify any required glazed areas specifically. Fixed or sliding windows can be added into either sliding side door if you wish, and the rear doors can be glazed too, and if so can feature heated rear glass. Plus, you can add a glazed window into the cab bulkhead. And talking of the cab, it's possible to add in height and lumbar adjustment for the passenger seat. On front-driven models, you can include an integral step in the rear bumper. It's standard on rear-driven variants. Front and rear mud flaps are optional, and those wanting to carry stuff on the roof will want the optional loading pack, which includes a steel ladder mounted over the rear door so that you can more easily get up to the top of the vehicle and use the pack's aluminium roof rack, supplied with a rear roller for easier loading. Roof bars are also available as a separate option. What else? Well, some operators might want a factory-installed speed limiter, which can be set to 56, 62 or 81 miles an hour. And the smart digital tachograph that's standard on the biggest rear-driven 4.5-tonne models can be optioned in further down the range too. Some operators might also want the power takeoff option for the engine. A Kenwood dashcam is available, and we'd also want to add in the larger 105-litre fuel tank. Plus, possibly also a tow bar, which, if fitted, will come with a trailer swing assist stability programme to prevent towing sway. And remember, if you go for the all-electric ZE battery-powered version, that you'll have to pay extra for the EVSE cable that would allow you to plug the vehicle into a domestic 3-pin socket. On to aesthetics. Now, refreshingly, Renault's prepared to offer a range of solid colours that don't cost extra, but you can pay more for one of the 3 available metallic shades: Star Grey, Pearlescent Black, or, as here, Tempest. 16-inch alloy wheels are also available, as are front fog lamps, and moving inside, you can specify rubber floor mats. Finally, in terms of options, your Renault Pro Plus LCV dealer will want to introduce you to the extra cost ready-for-work packages developed by specialists Sortimo mobile workshop racking systems. These are installed before delivery and have been designed to cater for the storage requirements of the vast majority of small businesses and trades. Customers can choose between near-side and off-side racking, and 3 options are available: basic, standard and premium. All shelves are made from steel with a load capacity of 60 kilos, and as part of each pack, aluminium strips protect the door sills, and you get a 9mm thick protective floor, which is scratch and impact resistance, shrugs off soil and water, and features integrated cups for anchorage points, along with aluminium uprights for the integrated ProSafe lashing system. These ready-for-work packages are covered by a 3-year, 100,000-mile warranty, and the cost of them can be integrated into your vehicle's finance package. Enough with extras, let's cover safety. Now, we're always disappointed on vans to find just a single driver's airbag fitted as standard, and that's again the case here. A passenger bag is only optional, as are lateral curtain airbags, and it's disappointing that the age of this van's design means it can't be equipped with SOS assistance, the kind of setup that would alert the emergency services to your crash location if the airbags went off. As for the more common safety inclusions you do get, well, let's run down the standard tally. As usual, there's ABS braking with electronic brake force distribution to make it more effective, and emergency brake assist that helps in panic stops, advertised to following motorists by automatically activating hazard warning flashes. Other standard electronic assistance features include ASR traction control and a very complete load sensing ESC stability control package that includes hill start assist and a grip extend package that acts on the driven wheels to gain the best possible traction in conditions such as mud, snow or sand. If you want to go further, Renault now offers its autonomous braking, or AEBS, Advanced Emergency Braking System, on this LCV. One of those setups that, as you drive, scans the road ahead in search of hazards. If one's detected, you'll be warned. If you don't respond or aren't able to, the brakes will automatically be applied to decrease the severity of any resulting accident. But how many operators will spend nearly £600 more to add this potentially life-saving feature? Sadly, not many, we think. Other optional camera safety features you can add in include lane departure warning, which alerts you if you drift out of lane, automatic high and low beam, which dips your headlights automatically at night, and blind spot warning, which alerts you if you're about to dangerously pull out into the path of another vehicle. A tyre pressure monitoring system is also optional. If your notebook's at the ready, in this section we're going to give you the loading, practicality and efficiency stats you'll want to consider in choosing your ideal Master variant. Now, we've given the key facts on model lineup elsewhere in this film, so let's fill you in a bit more on the 4 exterior body lengths. L1 at 5,075mm, the L2 version at 5,575mm, this L3 variant at 6,225mm, and the lengthiest L4 at 6,848mm. And the 3 exterior roof heights, H1 at 2,307mm, this H2 variant, which is up to 2,557 in rear-driven form, or up to 2,500 high in this front-driven guise, and top H3, which is up to 2,815 high in rear-driven form, or up to 2,749mm high in front-driven guise. So, using this typical L3 H2 variant as an example, let's start as usual at the business end, here at the rear. Now, the main access is through these side-hinged twin rear doors and open out first to 90 degrees, and then via these black stays to 180 degrees. Or they can be opened right out to 270 degrees so that they can fold back along the sides of the vehicle. The lowest load sill height you'll get on a front-driven L3 variant like this is 542mm, and it's much the same with the L2 body style. Bear in mind that the floor height rises quite a lot if you opt for a rear-driven model, up to around 682mm on an L3. The height of this door aperture is 1,820mm on this H2 model, or 1,627mm on an H1, while the overall width of the door opening measures in at 1,580mm either way. As an alternative, of course, you might choose to enter the cargo area through the side door. Now, this near side one is standard. An offside one can be fitted at extra cost. There's no optional power operation for this door of the kind you can have on some other LCVs, but its width aperture is decently sized. It's 1,050mm with an L1 model, or, as in this case, 1,270mm in width with an L2 or an L3 model, which is wide enough to allow Euro pallets to be loaded in sideways. The aperture height is 1,581mm with an L1 or 1,780mm with an L2 or an L3 model. Time to look at this cargo area in a little more detail. Now, the capacity options here can, of course, be wide-ranging, with so many body styles and roof choices on offer. Anything from 8 cubic metres and 2,583mm of load space length in the base L1 H1 variant, right up to 17 cubic metres and 4,383mm of load space length in the very biggest L4 H3 model, which can swallow up to 4 Euro pallets. Obviously, with a Luton box van conversion, your Master could take more still, between 20.1 and 21.7 cubic metres, depending on variant. Now, here, as mentioned earlier, we've got the mid-range L3 H2 panel van body shape that many Master customers choose, which offers a 13 cubic metre cargo capacity and 3,733 millimetres of floor length. All models feature a load area width of 1,765 millimetres, which narrows to 1,380 millimetres between the wheel arches on single rear wheel models. Bear in mind that if you choose the twin rear wheel option available on rear driven variants, it gets quite a bit narrower between the arches, 300 millimetres narrower to be exact. The interior load area height is 1,700 millimetres in a low roof H1, but thereafter, with the two higher H2 and H3 roof heights, will, as with the outside dimensions, vary with your choice of drive format. The H2 variant's interior roof height is 1,894 millimetres with this front-driven model, but would be 1,798 with a rear-driven variant. And with the top H3 roof variant, you'd be looking at an interior loading height of 2,144 millimetres with a front-driven model, or 2,048 millimetres with a rear-driven version. Talking of space for bulky things, you'll need to know about payloads, which can be as much as 2,167 kilos on the really big 4.5-tonne variants, but which of course will vary according to your choice of variant. This typical L3 H2 model can take up to 1,610 kilograms. As usual, the key payload determiner will be your selection between the 4 GVW or gross vehicle weight options offered to Master operators: 2.8, 3.3, 3.5 or 4.5 tonnes. Buyers of the L1 short wheelbase version choose between 2.8 or 3.5 tonne options, while the mid-range L2 variant you're more likely to want offers a choice of either 3.3 or 3.5 tonnes. As you'd expect, the longest L3 and L4 models are only available with the top 3.5 and 4.5 GVW weights. We've got an L3 3.5 tonner here. Your choice of engine and body style will of course also influence payload capacity, as will your drivetrain selection. Most will want this LCV in either front-driven or rear-driven form, and for really heavy industrial use, there's also a twin-wheel heavy-duty option on rear-driven models, which increases payload capacity and enhances braked towing capacity to 3.5 tonnes. The standard figure is 3 tonnes, facilitating a standard gross train weight of up to 7.5 tonnes. This is certainly a very usable workspace. Grab handles aid both side and rear access, and the load area is well illuminated and will be even more so if you pay extra for the LED load space lighting option we've got here. We've counted no fewer than 10 tie-down points. And as standard, the cargo sidewalls and the doors are protected from scrapes and scratches to half their height by hardboard panels. But that's not really enough, and there's no standard protection for either the floor or the wheel boxes. So we'd suggest you consider paying a little more for the extra protection we've got on this test vehicle, which has full height ply-lined side panels and a heavy-duty resin floor covering. This bulkhead features a handy built-in upper shelf, which would be a useful place to store things like tie straps, but unfortunately it can't be had with the kind of openable flap you can have on the smaller traffic van, which allows you to push longer items through into the cab. So, we've established that this Master is a very practical proposition, but what about its running costs, claimed by Renault to be very difficult to beat in this class? Well, if you've watched our driving experience section, you'll know that significant changes have been made to this LCV's 2.3 litre diesel biturbo DCI engine in the light-duty homologated Euro 6D temp form that's fitted to all front-driven variants. These updates mostly aimed at improving efficiency. Things like a fuel pressure raise from 1800 to 2500 bar and a redesign for the cylinder head, cylinder block and the variable turbo. As a result, the base 135 PS unit's headline NEDC rated CO2 figure is enhanced from 201 to 177 grams per kilometre, an improvement of 12%. And its headline WLTP rated combined cycle economy reading is up to 36.7 mpg to 42.1 mpg, an improvement of 15%. The more powerful mid-range 150 PS power plant we're trying here is actually more frugal than the base unit. Plus, its gains following the engine update are slightly bigger. The headline NEDC rated CO2 figure is enhanced from 179 down to 156 grams per kilometre, an improvement of around 13%. And its headline WLTP rated combined cycle economy reading is up from 40.9 to 48 mpg, an improvement of 17%. All the fuel figures just quoted assume the use of the provided eco button, which, when pressed, restricts torque, acceleration and various other functions and is supposed to improve frugality by up to 10%. Go for the optional R and Go app, and one of the features you'll get is an eco driving score readout. So, how much of a difference might all this make to your overall spend in running this van? Well, Renault reckons quite a lot. Over a typical 4-year or 80,000 mile ownership period, the base 135 PS power plant's running cost saving over the previous 130 PS unit with an L1 H1 version of this van could amount to £430, or as much as £480 if you were to choose the L3 H3 body shape. With this test model's 150 PS engine, the saving over the same period, compared to the 145 PS engine being replaced, would be £226 with an L1 H1 model or £303 with an L3 H3 variant. For the top 180 PS engine in an L3 H2, the saving over the same period would be £327 compared to the old 170 PS unit. Across the Master range with the energy spec engines fitted to most models, Renault offers a standard stop and start system that'll cut the engine when you don't need it, stuck in traffic or waiting at the lights. Plus, as with all modern diesel engines, these DCI units use AdBlue, a urea-based solution that's injected into the exhaust gases to clean up emissions. This liquid is stored in a 22-litre tank. You'll need to get topped up as part of regular servicing. And talking of tanks, we'd suggest you consider paying the small extra amount that would be necessary to upgrade the standard 80-litre fuel tank to one that's 105 litres in size. As you might be aware, if you've watched our driving experience section, you don't have to have an engine in your Master. Renault also offers, at a price, a 100% electric, zero emissions or ZE version, though it'll only really suit urban-based business as its WLTP rated driving range, when fully charged, is restricted to just 75 miles or only 50 miles in winter. Still, a Master ZE is pretty much as practical as most mainstream diesel versions. Depending on the variant you choose, it can offer a load capacity of up to 13 cubic metres and a payload of up to 1,128 kilos. And of course, it'll be vastly less expensive to run than a combustion engine model. Renault reckons you'd be looking at around 6.5 pence per mile. And careful use of the 33 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery can maximise the potential range, with operating distance likely to be maximised by drivers who remember to select the available eco mode and learn to better use the regenerative braking system to harvest energy. Charging from empty via the 7 kilowatt onboard charger takes 6 hours from a 32 amp 7 kilowatt wall box. Obviously, if you are forced to use a 3-pin 2.3 kilowatt 10 amp home plug socket connected to the extra cost EVSE cable, charge replenishment will take a lot longer. Renault quotes 17 hours. Whatever version of the Master you choose, residual values will of course be crucial to whole life running costs. This Renault can't of course match class-leading Volkswagen and Mercedes models in this regard, but depreciation levels are fairly close to what you could expect from most other volume brand competitors in this segment. Independent experts reckon that after 3 years or 60,000 miles, a typical 3.5-tonne business spec front-driven DCI 150 L3H2 version of this van would be worth £9,080 or 29% of its original value. Other things you'll need to know include the fact that service intervals have been extended as part of the changes made to this model. Your Master will need a scheduled service halt once every 2 years or 25,000 miles. More longer life or maintenance-free components are now fitted, including a camshaft drive chain designed to last the vehicle's lifetime. There are also more durable brake pads and discs, plus coolant that only needs replacing every 100,000 miles. If you want to ensure the cost of servicing visits don't come as a surprise, there are pay-as-you-go Renault iCare prepaid servicing plans available that allow you to budget in advance for these regular checks at a pre-agreed fixed pence per mile rate. We should talk a little more about service and maintenance because there lies one of this Master model's strongest selling points. It's backed up by a network of specialist LCV Renault Pro Plus dealerships, all of which offer a dedicated commercial vehicle sales team, B2B leasing solutions and services like overnight maintenance. There's menu pricing for all work and body repair facilities, plus there's appointment-free servicing for diagnosis work, and minor stuff can be done while you wait and use the complimentary Wi-Fi. All of this stuff's important to a hassle-free ownership experience. Otherwise, things are much as you would expect. Renault includes a 3-year warranty with mileage unlimited in the first 2 years and limited to 100,000 miles in year 3. There's also 3 years of Renault Assistance breakdown cover. In comparison, a Vauxhall Movano would give you a 3-year or 60,000 mile warranty and a year of breakdown cover. The all-electric ZE version has its own battery guarantee, which lasts for 5 years or 100,000 miles, whichever comes first, and includes a battery performance guarantee to at least 70% of original capacity. All versions of this LCV, like most vans, come with a 6-year anti-corrosion guarantee. The market's largest vans, LCVs like this one, are more significant than you might think. If increasingly goods can be carried in efficient, eco-friendly vehicles like this, rather than in smoky lorries, then everyone will benefit. Goods will be cheaper, they'll get there quicker, and the polar bears will have a few more years on the ice cap. For that to happen, of course, large vans need to be able to take larger loads, and this one can, with its greater space and higher weight limits. Which matters. How many lorry journeys, after all, could easily be completed by a Renault Master if it had, say, a 21.7 cubic metre Luton box van body and its top 4.5-tonne weight capacity? An enormous number. Our focus here, of course, has been on the conventional panel van version, which looks a strong contender in this revised form. Few large van rivals offer quite such a practical alternative for goods transit, and those that do struggle to match this French model's value pricing, sensible convenience features and low running costs. True, build quality could be a little tougher and a few of the options made standard, but that apart, this is a remarkably complete package, which, if you've packages of your own, could make a remarkably astute choice.